Hello, everybody. Happy March 8th. Good to see you all here for the Why Leading with Kindness Makes You a Strong Leader workshop. And this is the first one in a series, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it in a minute as we start talking about today and why this topic is important. So some of you might already know me, but for those of you who don't know anything about me, I'm Roxana. I'm the founder of All Personal, which is a training, coaching, and consulting company based in Canada. And I love everything that is related to learning and development, to leadership development, team development. And most recently, I have worked on building a course on leading with kindness, um, among other things that I do to help teams and leaders work well together, like team coaching, leadership coaching, and other workshops and programs. So happy to connect with you if you're interested in finding out more about that. But we're not here to talk about me today. This is what we will be talking about today. So, first of all, we're going to see why leading with kindness matters and what it means. And we're going to see the benefits of leading with kindness and debate one of the most popular misconceptions when it comes to leading with kindness. And you're going to see what I'm talking about in a couple of minutes. And then what we will be moving towards is some workshops where we are going to dive deeper into 4 strategies that you can look at and focus on when it comes to leading with kindness. And we're going to see why that is important. So, for those of you, by the way, who have registered through the link, that will be very useful. And I'm going to put it in the comments right here. So you can click on the link that you see in the comments right now and register for all of the 4 workshops that we will be doing together. So that is pretty useful because you're getting a ton of information and the recording, and also you're getting 4 important leadership courses for free if you register by the end of this week, which is March 10th. So that is so that you can grow as a kind leader and you can grow those skills muscles as a kind leader. All right, so let's look at what leading with kindness means and why does it matter. And what I'd like you to do, for those of you who are watching this live, just put your answer in the comments. How many of you have experienced kind leadership, either as a team member or as a team leader? And you can say yes for yes and no for no. Right? So you can answer in the comments. Or if you just want to give it a like for a yes, then even better. But I would really love to see if you have experienced it or if you think you have experienced it as we go through this, because that's very important, that experience of what actual kindness in leadership means and how does it make us feel, and do we know when we've experienced it or do we not know? So looking forward to seeing some of your comments and thoughts in there as we move through this workshop today. And in true legal style, because I did worked back in my corporate days in international law firms, and one thing that you learn from lawyers is that you need to define things before you start talking about them. So the definitions for kind, just in case you didn't look them up until now, first, the Merriam-Webster dictionary of a sympathetic or helpful nature, or of a forbearing nature, or arising from or characterized by sympathy or forbearance. So sympathy, forbearance, keywords here. In the Cambridge Dictionary, we get generous, helpful, thinking about other people's feelings. So if we put all this together, you get sympathetic, you get helpful, forbearance, generous, thinking about other people's feelings. So that is what we mean when we talk about kindness, how people, and I would like you to think about the behavior, because kind is, it can translate into different things, into different kinds of behaviors. And just thinking about the behaviors that you've seen in leaders who are kind, or behaviors that you've noticed about you when you yourself are a kind leader, either at home or at work. It doesn't matter, because you can be, leadership is, I do believe leadership is all personal because it's about who we are, and it starts with that kind of self-awareness that we're going to talk about it in a minute. So you are leaders in your own lives. So think about leadership behaviors. How are you generous? What does that mean? How are you helpful? How are you sympathetic? How do you show people that you care about their feelings? How do you show people that you're helpful? And you can think about yourself and think about other people who displayed that. And I also wanted to talk a little bit here about the impact of kindness, because we talk about it all the time, but we don't talk about what it actually does. And listen, there are many benefits to kindness in general. But what we know from the research is that, first of all, it releases dopamine, which we also call the happy hormone. So that is what makes us feel positive and energized. Next is it really promotes that sense of self-affirmation and self-esteem, which is super important for us to feel positive, motivated, energized, and engaged. And it really is shown to also slow down the aging process. So who wouldn't want to work with a leader who actually helps you age slower, or who helps you keep being young for a longer period of time, as we feel more positive, energized, and we have more self-esteem? See the connection between all of these elements? How feeling more positive and how feeling more energized and having that sense of self-esteem that is higher, how that also makes us feel younger, and actually by physically stay younger in a way. So that's one thing. The other is that we need to start from these characteristics, which are self-awareness and self-compassion, the two main characteristics of leading with kindness. And then we have compassion, acceptance, and equanimity. So that sense of balance that comes from the high levels of self-esteem. But it all starts, there's no coincidence that self-awareness and self-compassion come first. Because maybe it's something that we all think we know, but we kind of tend to forget pretty often that whatever it is that we cannot do for ourselves, how can we replicate it and reflect it on others? How can I be aware of what's going on with the team around me, with the people around me? How can I pick up those cues, those invisible cues that can be felt rather than seen or heard? How can I tap underneath the surface to have some important conversations if I cannot be aware of what triggers me, of what frustrates me, of what makes me energized, what makes me happy, what makes me feel engaged and included in the conversation? If I cannot be compassionate with myself, so for example, be able to accept that, yes, it's going to be a lot of trial and error that I'm going to do. And I need to allow myself the room to explore and perhaps make mistakes. And instead of blaming myself nonstop for the mistakes that I've made, rather be more compassionate towards myself and recognize the good that I've done and also look at what I need to improve. The more self-aware we are and the more compassionate we are, the more we can extend that to others. And most of the times what we do is we focus on improving and managing our relationships with others first. We want to have successful relationships. And yeah, of course we want that. But that's not where we start from. Where we start from is self-awareness and self-compassion, because if I cannot display these towards myself, I won't be able to extend them onto others. And then I can be more compassionate. And then I can be more accepting and less judgmental about, why are you saying this to me? Why have you done that? How many times have we heard that? Oh, why? That is because I'm not able to extend to you that benefit of the doubt, that sense of, I trust that you come with the best intentions, unless I know that about myself, unless I can work with that myself. And the study around high-performing teams is exactly that leaders of these teams tend to have a much greater sense of personal security than the counterparts in less successful teams. And that's really, really important, because we talk about strong leadership, kind leadership, powerful, inspirational leadership. And we think about the result, the end result of that, meaning the impact that it had on others. And we really need to stop and rethink, because it's the level of confidence in themselves of those leaders that enabled them to extend that level of confidence and trust in others. The fact that they were forgiving of mistakes, of their own mistakes first, and then of other people's, that was powerful. And the fact that they had trust in themselves and they were able to extend it to others, which empowered others in turn, and helped them make better decisions and self-manage better. So again, thinking about, I'd really love if you could share some of those behaviors, or maybe think about some of your behaviors you've had or that you've noticed when it comes to, what does self-awareness look like? How do I work with it? Because what makes a kind leader a strong leader is this. It's the self-awareness that, some things I'm very good at and these things I need to be working on. And I am going to hold myself accountable for developing those skills that I still need to be working on. A ruthless leader that does not have that level of self awareness finds it harder, or perhaps doesn't even think about, okay, here's where I need to fix things. Here are some things that I need to learn, or some things that I need to do differently so that I can develop as a better leader. What we tend to see in ruthless leaders is that they often put the blame on external events, on other people. They look for it, and they put the blame on the external factors rather than looking in first and seeing what they could have done differently. So I'm going to stop here for a bit to check in with you and re-ask the same question. Have you experienced kind leadership? Now that we're a little bit more clear about what kind leadership starts with, and what are some behaviors that we talk about when we talk about kind leadership, feel free to share some of your thoughts and your questions as well, and we can answer those questions in the comments as well. For those of you who registered on the platform, you can already comment on the platform, and we can address those questions a little bit later on. And by the way, that's going to be helpful when we talk about the 4 strategies of building yourself up as a kind leader. It will be very useful and helpful to have your questions there so that we can address them. All right, so moving on to the benefits of leading with kindness, because we said we were going to talk about that. And one of the things, and again, please share in comments if you agree or disagree with the popular belief that kindness is a sign of weakness. How often do we hear that? So you can definitely feel free to share your thoughts in there. And yeah, thank you for putting some of the comments in there. Oh, how do we activate the chat? I think I need to activate it on YouTube, right? Okay, see, that's where I really appreciate your feedback. Honestly, thank you. I never knew that comments were not enabled. So there we go. I will just, okay. Yeah, you are absolutely right. I will enable the comments in there, or just let me do. So I commented. Let me know if you're seeing the comments, or if you see the chat on YouTube, if you're joining from there. Other than that, returning to your experience and whether you agree or disagree, and hopefully you're also able to put some of your thoughts in the YouTube chat. Or if not, I would say just leave it for later. I will check it to see what I can do to fix it, and then you can share your thoughts afterwards. But just think about how often you've heard this before, and whether you agree or disagree with this popular belief. Kindness is a sign of weakness. We hear that all the time. And here's the thing. This is exactly what it is. It's a popular belief, but it's a misconception. Because here's what the research tells us. And this is the research of Psychology Today on kind bosses. And it says they have been shown to increase morale, decrease absenteeism, retain employees longer. Kind bosses may even prolong the lives of their employees by decreasing their stress levels, which improves cardiovascular health. So again, we get back to that theme of, hey, actually, kind leadership really helps you live longer. So wouldn't you like to have a leader who helps you live longer? Or wouldn't it feel good to know that because you're a kind leader, people live longer? That's Here's that for a motivation. But also, let's look at this. It's been shown to increase morale, decrease absenteeism, retain employees. How many times do we hear this conversation? How many times we talk about people leaving and how do we retain them? They're taking days off of work, that they're not motivated, they don't feel engaged. These are very measurable items on our list. So if we can measure that and if we can increase those levels by leading with kindness, isn't that going to be more productive? So how is that weak if that helps us solve for the really burning problems that we have right now? So here's what we're looking at. The kind leadership impact comes on different levels and in so many layers. But some of the most important benefits is that you get people to feel that they're stronger connected, that they can collaborate better, and that they can trust each other more. So those raised levels of trust, they help build better psychological safety at a team level. The more individual members can trust one another, the higher the level of psychological safety at a group or a team level. And it enhances loyalty. Of course it does, because if people feel good, they feel motivated, they feel engaged, they feel they can trust each other, they feel heard, they feel seen and appreciated, of course they want to stay for longer. And here's the thing. All of the studies focused on compassionate leadership or kind leadership say that these leaders are perceived as stronger and more competent. Because again, going back, they're going to be more self-aware, which helps them work on themselves more. So they're going to have that level of self-esteem higher, and they can extend that to other people on the team. So they make people feel good, feel empowered. It's easier to work with them, and you feel valued when you work with a kind leader, and you feel that. And that is very visible in how the team collaborate together. And looking at how we can measure it, the impact is huge. And you can measure, if you look at more authoritarian kind of leadership and the kind leadership, you look at some of the results, you're going to see some differences there. And of course, it will also depend on the state of the world, on the state of the economy, the industry, and what industry you're in and how it's affected. But there are still things that you can measure that give you the impact of one style of leadership over another. And it's looking at your sales and customer loyalty, employee motivation, creativity, and innovation. Normally levels go higher with kind leadership. A boost in well-being, which of course translates into better productivity and higher efficiency and effectiveness, reducing attrition, reducing costs in marketing, recruiting, and training, because that works as a sponge, because people working with that leader, they will also be ambassadors for that environment, for that company, for that organization. And they build on that reputation. So when people hear that it's good, that they like it, that they enjoy the environment, that they feel valued, that they feel appreciated, more people will want to go there. When people hear how bad it is to work in one place or another, then of course you're not gonna get the best people in the industry lining up in front of your door wanting to work with you, will you? So definitely, when we look at this, there are some things that we can clearly look at that give us the measure of what we need to change in the way in which we're leading, or in the way we show up as leaders. And how can we have a better impact where we actually help increase the levels of motivation and loyalty and well-being, and then also decrease some of the costs when it comes to especially recruiting. Like if people are ambassadors for your brand, you're going to spend less on marketing and recruiting, because people are going to be the best marketers that you will ever have. So here are some thoughts from leaders that I will assume you know on leading with kindness. So the first one, former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who remarked, so one of the criticisms that she's faced is that she wasn't aggressive enough or assertive enough, or maybe somehow because I'm empathetic, it means I'm weak. And what she said is, I totally rebel against that. I refuse to believe that you cannot be both compassionate and strong. So, yeah, compassion and strength, they do not exclude each other. And this is what we're going to learn about as we dive deeper with the next 4 steps. This is what we're going to talk more about. How can I become a kind leader? But don't forget, kindness applies to yourself first. So that level of self-awareness and self-compassion, you need to work with that so that you're able to share with others. That's going to be one of the topics in our next sessions. Another leader you might recognize, actually, it is counterproductive to be ruthless. People tend to come back and do more business if they feel they have done well with you. Over the years, this attitude helped me to attract and keep good partners and staff. So this comes from Sir Richard Branson. Everybody probably knows him, founder of Virgin, pretty successful leader, pretty strong leader, and also kind leader. And this is what he shares about not being a ruthless leader and it being counterproductive. So another one that I love is care as a core part of management. And it's not about a tool. We need to learn the soft skills to take care of people's well-being. And I know you think this is soft. I know this might sound fluffy, but it comes from the CEO of Microsoft. And they actually have a care management program that they initiated even before the pandemic, which helped them a lot during the pandemic, because they were already taking care of people's well-being, because they saw the potential to increase productive, to increase motivation, engagement levels of and retention levels as well, with that kind of approach to management, working on mid-managers, not top executives. The top executives have to be there, but let's work on the middle management, because that is part of it. It's not just about the facts, the figures, and the processes, because the processes will need to be applied by people. So I would like to hear, when I activate the comments and the chat, I would really like to hear your views about what kind leadership means to you. And if you need some prompters, if you think about some keywords that would define kind leadership, what would those be? How does kind leadership feel to you? And what's the impact that it has on you and others around you? And I will leave you with some more quotes from people. Now, for those of you, again, if you registered through the link in the comments, please, or if you haven't, please do, because you're going to get the slides, the materials for the day. But people generally say that kind leadership means having, um, the capacity and the ability to hold the space for critical conversations in a kind manner. Or the fact that, for example, in the midst of everything, one of the debates that we have is, being caring and kind is weak in leadership. But this has been disproven in the harshest of settings, which is the military. If followers are going to respect their leaders, they need to feel like they matter to them. So this is somebody from Australia talking about kind leadership and their experience with it. Somebody else from Romania, for example, says she's had the luck to work with a kind leader and it was her best time and had great results, and we need more kind leaders. So if you were on the fence about, kind leadership, and yes, I would love to hear your questions, and I will make sure that you can put them in the comments. But for people, when you ask them about kind leadership, they never say, oh, that was like somebody I didn't like, I didn't respect, I thought they were weak, and I thought they were incompetent. They did say instead that they had their best time at work and that they had great results and that they remember it so well. It's memorable, and that they want it replicated. So, time to rethink the kind leadership approach, definition, perception, because the results are there. And the more we go into the conversation about leading different generations in the workplace, not just the boomers, the Gen Xers, and the millennials, but also the Gen Zs who are just entering the workforce, who are in their early 20s or late teens, we need to understand how we can make all of these generations feel included and heard and valued in the workplace. So I would love to hear your questions and your comments in the comments. And then make sure that you register at the link in comments by March 10th, because that's how you will be getting the 4 strategies, and you will see there as I put them in on the platform, all of the workshops, you will have them there. And then you're also getting the 4 leadership courses below for free, only when you register by March 10th. So go on the link, get the courses, because they also include a 1-hour individual coaching session with me. And because you don't need just another online course, you also need some coaching to go with it so that you can implement what you learn in that course, so that you can ask some questions that are relevant to you and have a one-on-one conversation. So see you there. And if you want to get in touch, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. Check my website, personalskillscoach.com. That being said, that is it for today. I hope I see you in the next sessions for the 4 strategies of building yourself up as a kind leader. Okay, bye for now. Lead different, lead with kindness.